Welcome back, everybody, to another Growth Support Conversation. My name is Neil, and today I'm joined by Elsa Tranquillo to talk about B2C and B2B support, where business to customers is sometimes quite different than business to business, and what that means from an agent perspective, and actually working as a practitioner in those environments and some of the differences and nuances there. Elsa, before I jump too far into things, maybe you want to tell a little bit about your experience and where you're coming from and a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Hello, everybody. I'm Elsa. I'm an Italian in the Netherlands, as I like to say. I was born and raised in the south of Italy with a lot of good food and sunshine. And then I came to the Netherlands because of work mainly. Currently living in Rotterdam. When I came to the Netherlands, I soon started working in this big thing of customer success and customer support. So initially I was working for a tech company, and that's when I approached the world of B2C. It was quite funny because I did not know anything about customer support or customer success. So if you are in the same situation, no worries, you can learn about it. And I like the fact that in this field, you can use a lot other skill that you get by for other opportunity of work or like soft skill. And after some year working in this environment of B2C and getting crazy after customers, I decided to still get mad with customers. No, I'm joking. I still decided to continue in this customer success aspect. That I started working with a company in which I was working with a customer portfolio. B2B, and I had the chance to notice the difference between working with these two type of environments, different source in interaction, and then I came to I will say maybe something nice to talk about it, maybe not so common, and that's why we are here.
Nice, thank you so much. I mean, you jumped from B2C to B2B. You said, you had to learn support from the B2C perspective and jump into it. I'm curious, what was the main thing about B2C that really stuck with you as you transitioned into B2B?
Okay, I would like to say that maybe for me it was a bit easier because I hope, let's say, I'm an empathetic person and I like human interaction. So let's say that the main thing is difficult to choose one. I will try to do my best to keep it short.
Okay, let's rephrase that. Which one's your favorite?
Thanks, Nia. So let's say that the main things were, first of all, don't want to say immediate, but understanding the request quite soon from the other person, because not every people has this Dutch approach style. So not everyone is direct, especially in Italy. We are quite formal, polite, in cases hierarchical, or some culture, they don't say no directly. So try to individuate the hidden request, let's say. Also to manage emotion, because especially when you work with the B2C, you have a customer with let's say, end users. Sometimes are people that are not professional. They just use the product for hobby or for their own purpose. And you're exposed to people with a different background and different also approach. So some people are quite mad, irritated, and also, the things of understanding how to manage the other person's emotion, to calm down and not to get affected by. I would say these are the main things that I took with me from this experience.
They're really working that one-to-one individual and really finding out what they need and what they're growing and what their request is in terms of, hey, how can I help you the best? I mean, when you transition from business to consumer into business to business, what was something that, I mean, from your perspective, was one of the biggest differences between the two?
Okay, I would say the possibility to really build a relationship, because in B2C, you face a lot of customer with different needs, different aspects, and so on in one day. So, okay, of course, you can create an interaction, and from that first interaction, which is quite limited, the customer will get a positive or negative impression of you, which is a bit at times difficult, let's say, because people may leave a feedback about you that may impact your performance also, at company level, or it can impact also the company image. So you have quite a big responsibility, and also you feel the pressure to deliver the best resource in a short time framework. Instead, in B2B, you don't have the feeling that you need to save the world by 5, in the sense that generally, if you can build a relationship over time. So you can get to know the person in front of you better. And also I think you can, under certain circumstances, work better because you get to know also what the company, because generally there are people that represent the company interests, how the company act, which are the preferences, which is the company culture. So you get familiar with the flow. You can also build, apart from a relationship, you can also create trust easily, maybe because you can communicate more. And also the thing is that you can grow, and you can also appreciate the fact that the person or the company is growing with you. So more in depth in the service and so on. Of course, when I was working with the end user, at times there were people that were coming back, and you can kind of create this relationship, but it was more fragmented. So yeah, these are the two main differences, I would say.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, you're working with particularly individuals when you work B2C. It very much can be, at least from my experience, that maybe you are working with a lot of customers every single day.
Yeah.
And for you, it becomes quite a routine and a theme. And it's okay,
Yeah.
I'm helping these customers. Every interaction is different. But in general, there's a big churning of things. Where that customer might only interact with only you in that entire experience. So what you mentioned, that being that face and that vision and view from the company side is really important, because that might be the only interaction that they have with the company. They might not reach out as frequently or the things that they need. Whereas on the B2B perspective, you do have that, hey, we're going to work together and be a bit more partners. I'm probably going to interact with you a few more times. You spend more time on that relationship building side of it. I'm curious, when it came to that shift of mindset for you, what was the most challenging thing that you had to overcome in that transitional period of switching from business to customer to business?
Okay, let's say that in my previous experience may also be because in my previous role, I've been there for like 2.5 years. So I was also able to get some seniority and some experience. So at a certain point, I also gained some independence, in a sense that I was not doing anymore the routine agent things, but I was working more with training other colleagues or do some coaching, or basically handling still some customer cases, but most advanced or difficult, especially case of complaints that were previously handled by other colleagues. And so, I had this type of mindset, more goal-oriented, in the sense of being autonomous. If I have to do something, I just go and do, Instead, when I shift to B2B, working with the customer portfolio, not sure if it's also about company structure, but at least was my experience, that I had to relearn, let's say, how to say a bit in the structure, because at times, I don't know, when you work in customer success or support, that you have to talk with a lot of teams. And in my previous job, I was also used to go quite autonomously, independently to team leaders or head of the department, because the point was that I had to deliver a solution and a result faster. And at times it was needed, to just push a bit or to do a check in order to get the result. Because at the end, you are still responsible for the result delivered. But when I entered in B2B, instead it was different. Like I had to relearn that I had to stay a bit more in my place. So of course I could ask to other colleagues, but maybe not to do some extra step, not to involve other people in higher position than me, especially from either team, because there were escalation rules and so on and so on. So for me, it was a bit difficult, but maybe also related to my experience. So this was the major thing. Sometimes they were, why did you ask this person? Well, for me, it's normal. Like, I just want to get the best. And they were, yeah, I understand, but here the things were differently. So there was this adaptation of the phase. And then after that, you go with the flow and you accept that it's like that. And yeah.
I feel that a lot, because I also come from a more B2C retail experience, a bit more back in the day, and then transitioning more into a B2B space. It was also something that was like, okay, helping as one customer impacts this individual and probably doesn't have that much impact on too much. But then when you go into business to business, there's a lot more complexity to the customer profile that you're working with, where it's not just, oh yeah, I'm working with you as an individual. No, I'm working with your organization, and your organization has multiple stakeholders, or it has a few people that are involved, and the impact on your own organization is much heavier. There's much more moving parts and things like that.
Yeah.
So
you still chase colleagues. Colleagues may still hate you. I'm joking. I hope my colleagues didn't hate me. I was always there. Sorry if I ask again, but it's because the customer is always blaming someone else, because I can understand, it's annoying if someone asks, but sometimes there are deadlines, especially if you need to deliver products or logistics and so on. So don't worry. Colleagues will still hate you, but it's our job. So.
You got to make sure you have all those moving parts, an overview of the map of everything. I'm curious if in that experience when you were trying to manage all your colleagues and try and get everybody, hey, answer this, how do you think people could better share information for a particular customer? When you're an agent trying to work on a business to business, you're like, hey, there's a lot of things going on. How do you make sure you have all the information that you need?
Yeah, okay. This is a big complex issue in the sense that customer side, at times customers are not always clear on which is the problem of what they want, but I also understand because they are the customer, they are not the product expert. And also maybe they don't know very well which are the policy of the company, how is the service delivered, blah, blah, blah. So there is already this area of uncertainty from the customer. And then you have extra level of difficult, let's say, when you work with the colleagues, because when you are an agent, but also when you are higher, let's say, as positioned, you work with other colleagues, and at times it happened that one customer, especially in B2C, is handled by one agent, then by another one, because the person was sick, but I don't remember who said that, why, but I ask you, no, where? So since life is complicated, at least at work, let's try to make it simple. So some best practices that I suggest is, especially if you work in a CRM system or if you use some platform for ticketing, you should have the possibility to add some internal notes. So if a case is complex, like the customer came back a few times because issue with the problem or the service, or there was an evolution, whatever is the person doing or who is the person handling, no matter, leave a kind of internal note, short but clear. Customer background, what has been done. If the customer has to follow up with you or you have to follow up with the customer, it's always good to give deadline, like, okay, I will call you back, I will email you by this date. And also, if you ask someone to do something, or if someone asks you to do something, write down also who the person is, because, a colleague from IT say that, okay, but if I have 100 colleagues, who is the person? So
who do I need to chase for this? Right?
Yeah, so you can go and chase them and get it one by one. Yeah, so I would say, yeah, of course, it's always difficult, and this thing can help a bit to reduce complexity, also because at times you are revising. I remember that at times I was revising cases. So then, especially if, because at times customer came to you and say, I have this problem, okay, you provide the resolution, then they disappear, and after 3 months they come back with the same problem or another problem. And especially when it comes to touch product, when you provide what we say troubleshooting, like several steps to resolutionate the problem, and maybe you do remote, so you don't have the product, it's difficult then to remember what did you say, what the customer did. So it helps everyone, also your future self, even if you don't know yet, to leave this thing clear and accessible to everyone. Because if you have on your PC and you are not in that day, then no one can access, guys, doesn't work as well. So think about your colleagues as well.
I cannot believe how many people underestimate the power of actually leaving notes.
Yes.
Like they're the most important thing to be able to keep that information flowing. What you mentioned, like life is already complicated as is. Let's make work simple. Yeah. Like, how are you even going to remember for your own self what you did 3 months ago on a customer if they haven't contacted you or something hasn't happened with them in such a long time? Like, one, notes are not for you, it's for your future self and for your colleagues. Like, those breadcrumbs are so important, just to really make sure that all that information is continuously flowing and can actually have value. Those conversations are important. If nobody knows what happened in those conversations, then everybody's going to be more confused for it as well. It's just crazy. Nice. I think that, like, that in itself, sharing notes and things like that is helpful, and really being able to build that kind of for the future. When you started transitioning, I mean, when you went into B2B, how did you develop yourself and kind of look for development resources for your own education for the differences, and how did you go about that?
Okay, I would say that some things you always keep on learning, especially things like managing conflicts or cultural differences and like communication style, because I think we can always improve. So what I had to learn in my specific case, I had to relearn about, I would say keeping in mind that there is a more complex process. In my specific case, I was also shifting industries, so I had to learn some concepts and basic way of working about the industry and about resources. So I would say, apart from your podcast, Neil, because there were so many topics interesting, I would say I also try to get some insight on cultural differences because it was easier. When I was in my previous role, I was working mainly with Italians, and I have the same cultural background or European people. Maybe in this new role, I had the chance to work with the people as customer clients, also outside Europe. So there is one book that is quite famous, and maybe that is the cultural map. I hope I'm pronouncing correctly. That helped me quite a lot, also to understand how me as Italian I position not only with my cultural background, but also here in the Netherlands. And then taking into account these two things, also with the customers, it's always adding complexity. Then there is another book that was about leadership, because you don't have to think as I think, at least. Okay, wait, let me rephrase. Too many I think. I believe that we misunderstand the thing of leadership is not only if you are team leader or you are managing people. Being a leader means also lead something, a process, and when you are responsible for a project to deliver for the customer or a service to be delivered, you may need some leadership skills. So I try to also learn more about this. I think his book is called Radical Candor, and because I always believe that I don't agree with that old type of leadership, like work and like as if there was no tomorrow. I need this to be done by yesterday. I don't know. Okay, no, I think it doesn't work. So, I was also trying to understand how we can cooperate, but how can be still, cooperative, but also trying to get to the point. So these were two main things. It was more, for me, was more actually on the soft skill side, because maybe in other job I didn't have the chance to develop too much. It's because being so much time in a role, then you, as we say, you can get used to the work. So yeah, that's it.
Nice. I think what you mentioned, there's a ton of resources out there, right? There's people's podcasts, blogs, resources, information. It's great to see that you reached out externally for those things. And I love what you mentioned that, it's not necessarily always up to just leadership to need those leadership skills in that sense, where, for example, some of the things like when it comes to B2B support, you're taking full ownership for that customer, and you also need to be able to guide them and be able to manage them in such a way that it's successful for both their business, what they need, and also for your own business. And those skills really do come in handy when you're taking that much ownership over a particular type of customer and working towards that partnership where, you might not necessarily be leading full teams, departments like you mentioned, but you are definitely leading that customer and the outcomes for them. So very interesting that you look towards that, and also that you're not just looking at support functional skills, but you're also looking at cultural profiles and what are the differences there. I think that's something that people don't necessarily think, especially in a global market, for example, where if you're working with global customers, they have different preferences and different cultural needs and things like that. So really cool to hear that you're working towards upskilling yourself in that direction, and that those are the things that you're thinking about, because it's very different, right? And also the level and type of customer management that you need is also very different. You mentioned that not only when you jumped into B2B, you were also jumping in and transitioning into another industry from your actual work and functional knowledge. How was that transition for you? And do you think that impacted your way of thinking about the actual customer?
Yeah, okay. I think my life has been a full transition because in the sense that
we're always learning.
Everything, every day is a new learning experience. No, basically it's because when I first started working with tech products, I was working also with products such as photography or drones, and I really never saw a drone. I was like, what is a drone? So, already that was. And then when I switched to industry, I was working in the sea logistics. So, okay, I knew what was a ship or a boat, at least there was something in place, but I did not know how complex logistics is, because logistics is kind of a chain, let's say. And if one step is missing or delayed or incomplete, which I would say 90%, if not 99% of the time happens, for several reasons, not always your fault, just bad weather condition and port is closed or delayed this ship, and you miss the important connection, then it's really a problem. And you have to learn a lot of things. So I had to learn a lot of things, not only about the process, but also of Incoterms, regulation, and also how to manage a customer portfolio. Because, okay, maybe in this case, you don't need to leave a note every time you say something with the customer, unless, of course, you are not going on holiday, so there is the handover or urgent pending task, or you are hand over some task to your team leader, so maybe does not know what is the background, okay, fine. But it was more about learning the features, let's say, of the customer. So learning about the own peculiarity of the customer, which may seem easy, but at times you manage more than one customer. Some are not so recurrent, so you still need to write down or learn or remember every case peculiarity and way of doing things, because of course customer, they will explain to you, but it's not nice if they have to explain every time. And major thing was that I understand, okay, since in this case they were like customer, as I say, working on behalf of the company. So it was not anymore the person that was using the product for fun when there was good weather, blah, blah, with their friends, okay? There was another urgency level. Of course, also using the product for fun with your friend may be urgent, but you may have more flexibility to not offend anyone. You may have, another degree of flexibility. Instead, when you're working on behalf of a company, there is also a major financial aspect that may impact more people. So you have a different sense of urgency. So I also had to get to this, even if you may not understand, because maybe you don't know all these internal things. So, also this, not underestimate. But I would say also that something was also useful that I bring back from my old work, to have this kind of, helicopter view. So to check everything, to keep on, maybe I was more frequent on checking, especially no connection or this type of things, being organized, because a lot of information, and also try, to maybe prevent disruption, also not checking proactively on people. So this was something that I was doing, but I had to do again, but more intense, organized level, and also sharing some information with other people or the customer, again, because of the complexity, and it is something that I had to learn about it.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting side of things, right? The impact is very different. To the level of which you're operating is less flexible, and there's a lot more risk involved. And I think that's a really cool reflection in trying to keep that helicopter view of the things that are changing and the things that are specific about that industry, where you gain a bit more deeper industry knowledge so that you can better then support those customers as well. And there's just a very different skill set when it comes to business to customer versus business to business, which I think is also very interesting. For some people are really good at business to customer. Some people can be really good at business to business. There are things that cross over between the two, but also the two have very unique circumstances and skill sets and flavors, if you will. So I think it's very interesting to think about that difference. If you had some piece of advice to give someone who was thinking about, maybe I'm in B2C today and I'm thinking about going into B2B, or which one do I think I would prefer? Is there anything that you would share with them?
Yeah, of course. First of all, rely on your skill, because these are transversal skill. Of course, I think, as it was my experience, as maybe the personal experience, you will need to learn some other skills, but still rely on that and try to potentiate that. Learn about the industry you would like to switch to, okay, if you know already that you have a preference to work in an industry. Work a lot on, EI things, or also learning about how to manage diversity and multicultural in a context. In general, I would say don't take it personal, because when you work with clients or customer, let's call as we prefer, You are exposed to human emotions, at times are not positive emotions. Maybe it's easier in B2C that people come screaming at you, they're mad, and they may also make negative comments about your work. But these people also don't know what happened in the office or in background, because as we say, at times things happen and it's not our fault. We cannot avoid a storm by ourselves or a disruption on a line or whatever, you know? So don't take it personal. And also working on like empathy, okay? Because we can understand other people's emotion, be empathetic, understand that there is frustration, but still keep on the point. And also, yeah, if we are a person, if you imaginary person we are talking to, you are a person very emotionally, try to work on that to avoid, you know, because if the person in front of you is mad and you get mad, you don't go anywhere. So also try do a kind of personal, let's say, work and set boundaries, because I think this is an environment in which there is like a risk of burnout because all the things we say. So of course there will be days in which work will be busier and you may have to stay longer, but in other days when you close the PC, the day is over. So go on, think about other things, do the things you like, because what can you do actually? You know, at times you need to work with other people and after 5 p.m. they are not working. So no point in, you know, thinking what you have to do or whatever. If you are a person that is struggling with that, no matter what your job it is, my suggestion would be write down things. You may do a post-it. I was doing like kind of post-it, living on the PC, so I was with the most urgent task to handle the day after. So I free my mind and I know that I can immediately see, because it's just that. Other people that are more for like, I'm old school, I understand using pen and paper, but for people that prefer technology, I ensure there are a lot of apps, things that you can use as well to do the same. Yeah, that would be this.
Nothing beats the classic pen and paper. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry guys, but sorry for the trees and so on. We will try to switch to recycled paper, but it's helpful.
Yeah, and I think one, really reflect on what style and type that you like and understands your skill set that you have and try to lean into that, utilize those strengths, and then determine for yourself what are the things that you like and how can you actually be able to pick the one that will work the best for you. I think just what we talked about in this conversation as well is just understand that the complexity is different, understand that the things that you will run into are a lot less maybe impersonal in that sense, that sometimes it's not about you, there's circumstances outside of your control. I mean, that happens all the time in support. So I think people typically be able to think about that one. I think it's great advice. And I appreciate you, Elsa, for sharing your experience here. And I do have one last question for you. Outside of just the B2C to B2B transition and experience, just in general, is there any particular thing that you've learned along the time of your career that you still really hold to today?
Yeah, two things, let's say, that are a bit interconnected. Talk to people, which seems stupid, but it's not, in the sense that, especially when you work in customer success or if you work in transversal role, which you had to deal with a lot of different departments, team and so on, talk to people. Ask simple questions. What do you do? How this done? Ask and say, maybe, you know, I'm trying to understand to do better my job so people don't feel the pressure that you're judging, which is not the point. And also in general, for instance, what you asked me before, if someone wants to switch from B2C to B2B, again, talk to people, also people that you don't know on LinkedIn or through mentorship or whatever, because what I realized in this moment of my life, in which I'm also searching for a new role, is that people are willing to help, even stranger. Everyone knows that life is difficult, that the market is difficult. So try to talk to people, ask questions. Also, if it helps you, me and Neil, I think we get to know through LinkedIn. I don't know how, maybe commenting some meme or something, which is our hidden passion. Or something like
and
that.
we're local here in the Netherlands, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to find something to survive because the weather is not helping. And you know, Neil was one of the first person I got to talk with, and super nice guy. And you know, so don't be ashamed to do this. I know a lot of people feel shy, but worst thing people will say, sorry, I don't have time. Generally, it doesn't happen. So yeah, be open, because you cannot never know. And also try to challenge yourself. Also learn something new, even if you think, okay, you know, maybe this is not really related to what I do, no matter, because one day may be related. So just be open and curious.
I think that's, yeah, the connections that you make if you start to reach out to the community and network and start to kind of expand and just just talk to people and take that opportunity. You never know what kind of opportunities will come your way because of those connections and because of that network that you build. And I think, yeah, being able to just talk to people and reach out to them and not be afraid to ask, hey, I need some help with this, or hey, do you have a second to talk or chat or something like that? People definitely are willing to help. And you mentioned earlier that you also just started signing up for a mentorship program where you can be a mentor and share your knowledge and help as well.
Yeah.
So it's great that you're doing that to be able to help others in that sense. Well, I really appreciate your time, Elsa. And if people want to continue this conversation, is there a best place to connect with you?
I will definitely say LinkedIn is the best place. If there is something specific or whatever, there is also in the contact section on my personal email address. So, of course, you can find me. There is always a way, I guess, especially in this time. Or, of course, you can always send me funny memes. No, it's okay. Yeah, of course, it's also appreciated. But yeah, I would say on LinkedIn is the best.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Elsa. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. It was nice to talk with you, and also nice to talk with someone that share, the same experience, and someone that you get well along. It's nice also to do something on more professional level, apart from jokes and so on.
Well, there's plenty of those.